The Renaissance, a time when art, science, and human thought flourished like never before. But what if I told you that behind the greatest masterpieces of the Renaissance stood not just artists, but a powerful family whose vision and wealth shaped history? The Medici family didn't just rule Florence. They nurtured a cultural revolution, funding artists like Michelangelo, architects like Brunelleschi, and thinkers like Galileo. Their legacy wasn't built on power alone, but on the belief that art, science, and philosophy could transform the world. This is the story of how the Medici became the true patrons of the Renaissance, shaping the soul of an era. Welcome to Whispered Tales by Joe, where history meets today's world. In each quiet moment, we uncover lessons from the past that resonate with our lives now. Let's journey back in time together. In the heart of Tuscany, where the hills rolled gently beneath the sun, lies Florence, a city destined to change the course of history. This wasn't just a city of stone and arches. Florence became a cradle for the Renaissance, where art, science, and philosophy intertwined to bring forth a new age. At the center of it all was one family, the Medici. Tonight, we delve into their legacy as the true patrons of the Renaissance. Florence in 1469 is unlike any other city. Its streets are filled with the clamor of artists at work, the hum of intellectual debate, and the clink of coins in the markets. But behind this energy lies the guiding hand of a single family, the Medici. The Medici family weren't kings or warriors. They were bankers. Their wealth didn't come from conquest, but from trade and finance. The story begins with Giovanni de Medici, a banker with sharp acumen. Giovanni laid the foundation for the Medici family's power. In 1397, Giovanni de Medici founded the Medici Bank, an institution that would revolutionize the banking industry and laid the foundation for the family's future influence. The Medici Bank quickly became one of the most respected and powerful financial institutions in Europe. Giovanni's innovative approach to banking, including the use of letters of credit and a network of branches across major European cities, allowed the Medici to facilitate international trade and amass immense wealth. But it's not just their riches that made them powerful. It's how they used their fortune that would earn them the title patrons of the Renaissance. Giovanni believed that wealth had a higher purpose. Instead of hoarding his riches, Giovanni used them to sponsor artists, thinkers, and architects, those whose genius needed the freedom to flourish. Through their patronage, they transformed Florence into a beacon of light during an era of darkness, and their support allowed the Renaissance to bloom. This belief in investing in the future carried forward through his son, Cosimo de Medici, known as Cosimo the Elder. With a quiet strength, Cosimo took on his father's legacy, not only expanding the family's banking empire, but embracing the role of Florence's greatest patron. Under Cosimo's watchful eye, Florence began to transform from a medieval city into the artistic hub of Europe. Cosimo de Medici, often called Pater Patria, or Father of the Nation, was the one who saw Florence's potential. He believed that power wasn't just about controlling land. It was about controlling ideas, and he knew that to shape the future, he needed to fund the best minds of his time. He sought to surround himself with the brightest minds and most talented artists. Imagine walking through the halls of the Medici Palace, cosmopolitan yet intimate, a place where philosophy and painting mixed with science and sculpture. Cosimo funded libraries that held ancient texts, long forgotten, and opened them to the scholars of his day. Cosimo wasn't just funding artists, he was creating a cultural revolution. He financed scholars who brought ancient Greek and Roman texts back to life, laying the intellectual foundation for the Renaissance. In 1439, Cosimo even sponsored the Council of Florence, where Eastern and Western scholars met, sparking a renewed interest in classical knowledge. With his backing, Florence became a beacon of humanism, a movement that placed human beings, their capacities and their worth, at the center of the universe. Cosimo's influence transformed Florence from a city of merchants to the heart of a cultural and intellectual rebirth. By supporting architects like Brunelleschi, who designed Florence's iconic Duomo, Cosimo set the stage for the Renaissance's artistic flourishing. If Cosimo laid the foundation, it was his grandson, Lorenzo de Medici, often called Lorenzo the Magnificent, who built upon it, leading Florence into its golden age. Lorenzo wasn't just a wealthy ruler, he was a poet, philosopher, and most importantly, a patron of artists. Under his leadership, the Medici not only funded art, but created an entire artistic ecosystem. Painters like Botticelli, sculptors like Michelangelo, and thinkers like Marsilio Ficino all thrived under Lorenzo's support. Lorenzo's patronage wasn't just about hiring artists. It was about creating an environment where creativity could flourish. He brought artists together, allowing them to share ideas and push each other to new heights. He funded schools and workshops, ensuring that Florence remained the epicenter of artistic talent. But Lorenzo's influence extended beyond art. They were patrons of thought, of discovery, of humanism, the philosophical heart of the Renaissance. They sponsored the study of ancient texts, breathing new life into forgotten knowledge. Their libraries were filled with the wisdom of ancient Greece and Rome, sparking new ideas in philosophy and science that would change the way people saw the world. It was under Lorenzo's patronage that Florence reached the peak of its cultural power, and the Renaissance entered its most vibrant phase. The Medici's influence wasn't confined to art. They played a critical role in supporting the emerging scientific minds of their time, funding thinkers who would later challenge the established worldview. Scientific thinkers, such as Leonardo da Vinci, who bridged the gap between art and science. Da Vinci's notebooks are filled with sketches of inventions, anatomy, and architecture, or thinkers like Marsilio Ficino, who revived Platonic philosophy, influencing the way society viewed the relationship between humanity and the divine, all of which were made possible through Medici's support. Galileo Galilei, who would go on to revolutionize our understanding of the cosmos, was one of the beneficiaries of Medici patronage. In fact, Galileo dedicated some of his early discoveries to Cosimo de Medici, naming the 4 largest moons of Jupiter the Medicean stars in his honor. The Medici saw science as another form of human expression, another way to understand the world. Their support of philosophers like Marsilio Ficino and scientific minds like Galileo created a space where art, science, and philosophy could coexist, fueling the intellectual fire of the Renaissance. The Medici earned the title Patrons of the Renaissance because they used their wealth and power not just to rule, but to uplift humanity's greatest achievements. Through their patronage, they made Florence the artistic and intellectual center of Europe. They didn't just hire artists. They cultivated an environment where creativity, innovation, and thought could thrive. By funding the rediscovery of classical texts, they fueled the rise of humanism, which placed humans and their ability to think, create, and dream at the center of the universe. Their investment in art, philosophy, and science laid the foundation for the Renaissance's greatest achievements. Without the Medici, there might have been no Michelangelo, no Leonardo da Vinci, no Galileo. The Renaissance wasn't just a cultural movement. It was a transformation of how we view the world. And the Medici were its architects. Yet the Medici family's path was not without challenges. In 1478, during the Pazzi conspiracy, their power was tested when Lorenzo's brother, Giuliano, was tragically murdered in the Florence cathedral. But the Medici family, even in the face of this dark moment, remained steadfast. Lorenzo took on the role of both protector and leader, guiding Florence through political turmoil while ensuring that the arts and culture continued to thrive. And what they left behind was nothing short of a cultural revolution. Through their investments in art, science, and humanism, the Medici helped launch an era of brilliance that would echo through the centuries, from the streets of Florence to the minds of future generations. Tonight, as you close your eyes, think of Florence not just as a city, but as an idea, a place where art was nurtured and knowledge was given space to grow. Remember that the Medici family didn't just shape Florence. They shaped the world by believing in the power of creativity. In marble halls, where art was born, a banker's hand lit up the dawn. Their wealth was more than gold or land. They shaped the soul with artist's hand, the brush, the pen, the mind set free. All grew beneath the Medici. Their vision, like the stars above, turned power not to fear, but love. Sleep now, knowing that the Renaissance was not just a period in time, but a reminder of what can happen when we invest in others, when we see the potential in every brushstroke, in every page turned, and in every dream shared.